inferno engulfs another residential building. This time, a high-rise in Mumbai's Parel area. 4 people burnt alive, charred to death. Over 16 residents left injured. The culprit? A short circuit in the building's electrical connections.
अग्निशमन दलातील अधिकाऱ्यांनी कर्मचाऱ्यांनी खूप चांगलं काम केलं आहे रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशनमध्ये 12व्या माळ्यावरती या क्रिस्टल टॉवरला शॉर्ट सर्किटमुळे आग लागली.
All the proper probe will be done and proper action will be taken against those who are involved in this particular negligence. This is what we are hearing so far from the authorities, and the building currently is declared to be unsafe to all the residents.
Firefighters who reached the spot found that firefighting systems of the residential building did not function.
ये हमारी जो अपना ये जो फायर इंजिन्स है और हमारी जो बाकी जो टैंकर्स है उससे हम लोगों ने पानी लिया है. अभी सिचुएशन पूरी कंट्रोल में. सर्च ऑपरेशन भी हर एक फ्लोर पे हो गया है.
More was to come. Mirror investigations revealed the building in which people were living since 2013 had no occupancy certificate. Soon it was clear that what these residents called home was in fact a death trap, a disaster waiting to happen. And they had paid upwards of 3 crore rupees for these houses. As residents mourn the 4 people who died in the blaze, the charred building poses urgent questions. Are our homes safe? How do we ensure that annual fire safety audits are compulsorily carried out? And does India need tougher building norms and stiffer penalties? Let's debate.
So whose responsibility is it to make sure that the buildings that we live in are in fact safe? Is it the developer who builds the building, the society or the housing society and the group of people who live in it, or the local government? That's the question we're going to answer this evening. But before we get to the serious and the hard questions, my colleague Disha is standing by with a young resident of only 10 years old whose smart thinking and quick wit helped save several people in her building. Disha, I understand that the young lady is with you. What did she do? What was the story? And how did she manage to save her neighbors?
Absolutely, Faye. I'll pose this question right to her. She's a 10-year-old named Zen, and she is in grade 6. She stayed on the 16th floor when the fire really started. Thank you so much for talking to us. When this happened, of course, a lot of things were happening at the same point in time. What did you really do? Because you saved almost 13 lives, like you mentioned.
Yeah, so basically, I stayed calm. Staying calm was one of the main things that helped me, and not to be panicked about anything and everything that came in my way. That made me actually focus on my work. And then I reached a stage when I had to do something because no one could breathe. Even I couldn't breathe. I started to create a purifier. The purifier was nothing but a cotton in which you had to add water. And I simply told other people to put it on their mouth and nose and inhale and exhale as normally as they could. And then basically they listened to me and they were saved. And the second thing I told them was to duck down. As you know, the poisonous air, that is the carbon, was flowing above because of the air pressure. And so I told them to duck down. By ducking down, I told them, you may feel suffocated, but that's the only way you could be saved. And the other thing was, so other people, like in my floor, were staying in their own house. I don't know why, I guess they wanted to die at one place. But one thing was clear, that I had to gather them together to stay alive. So I told them that 1603 would be the best place. It was my neighbor's house. There was nothing that could influence fire other than few dry materials and stuff like that. Right. So that's why I gathered them over there. And the dry materials, I took them and dumped them in one of the places. And this is what I did.
So this
Disha,
was
Disha, if
the
you can hear me,
spontaneous
here's
decision,
my
Faye,
question.
that she took
Tell
at
us-
that point in time.
Yes, Disha, ask Zen, how did she know to do all of this? Where did she learn all of this information from? And ask her to explain to us where she was when the fire started. We understand the fire started on the 12th floor. Was she on the 16th floor? Was she at home? How did she know the fire had started? And how did she have enough time to create air purifiers with cotton wool?
Right. So when the fire started, the fire started on the 12th floor. But you said that you were at your house on the 16th floor. So how did you manage to do all of this in spontaneous time and, save so many lives? And second question, where did you learn all of this from?
So actually, at 12th floor, there was not much of, the gases. There was fire, and fire is any day better to gas. The gases, which are extremely hurtful. Fire may just burn you, but the gas may suffocate you to death. So that's what I did. I purified the air by getting in the purifiers that I made by cotton and water.
So you had made the purifiers before and that you used at this point in time?
No, I created it in just a minute.
How did you create air purifier in a minute?
It was like you needed water. That is one of the most main supplies, and you needed cotton. So basically, cotton was like I had big sheets of cotton that I had bought for some science experiment that I was going to conduct, but now it was useful, and I added water onto the cotton. I cut the cotton, I gave it to people, and then I told them to breathe through it. So the water purified the oxygen through carbon.
And where did you learn all of this? In school?
No, I researched about it.
This was a while back and maybe during your assignments or something?
No, I'm interested in science, and whatever comes through, I check it out.
So this is what Faye, 10-year-old Zen, is telling us here, that she loves science, she researched about it, and that research really helped today and saved 13 lives. And Faye, just to show you right now what's happening, there are residents out here who are still waiting to get back to their houses, as you can see, because the police as well as the fire brigade is not allowing them to really go
back into their houses
at this point in time, because there is no electricity, there is no water supply. And that's what the residents are really waiting for.
All right, Tisha, thank you for bringing us that update, and thank you to Zen for what can only be described as very useful iPad time, where she researched what needs to be done in a fire, and she managed to save, from what we are told, 13 people on her floor, on the 16th floor, by creating those water purifiers with cotton and then telling them to duck under the fire and then moving them to the safest apartment on that floor. But the questions that remain to be asked are this: is it the developer's fault, or is it the developer's responsibility to make the building fire safe? After people move into the building, is it the responsibility of the residents to maintain the building in a manner that it remains fire safe? And finally, what of the fire department and the BMC that are supposed to keep a close eye on buildings to make sure that the citizens inside those buildings are safe? Now, from what we understand and information that has been given to us, this building was built back in 2013. Apartments were sold for upwards of 3 crore rupees each. People moved in 2013 without an occupation certificate, and they've not created a housing society since then because they don't have the occupation certificate. Incidentally, also, this building is across the street from the BMC office. Across the street. There is no way that the BMC would have not noticed this building and not noticed people were living there without an occupation certificate, which means someone turned the other way. Inviting my guests onto the show, Pratap Kargupiga is a former Chief Fire Officer, Swapnil Kothari is a lawyer, Bhaskar Prabhu is a RTI activist, Rohit Gera, Managing Director of Gera Developers, is a developer, and we also have Chandrasekhar Prabhu, who is an urban planner, join us through the course of this conversation. I welcome all of you to this conversation. I'm going to start with Mr. Pratap. Here's the information we have about this building. It is a 17-story building with 58 flats. People moved in 2013 without the occupation certificate. It was served a notice in 2016 by the BMC for unauthorized occupation and asked to vacate in a week's time. Obviously, nobody has vacated. We understand that the entire matter is sub judice. Pratapji, whose responsibility is a building like this? Should it be the residents, the fire department, or the BMC?
First of all, I would like to clear certain issues which are very important point of view. Now, I try to understand one thing, part of it. When this particular ill structure was noticed, a notice was given to them, and then subsequently it was not followed later on. Till today, now we are talking of a criminal case against the particular builder or the whosoever there. Point is, now if you are anyone who is living in a building, unauthorized building, especially in a high-rise building, they have to have a sort of corpus to see that the firefighting system is kept in working condition. First, it would be checked by the competent authority, that is fire service, and then subsequently it is to be maintained by the particular, if you are unauthorized, you are staying there. For your own safety, you have to see that whatever you have spent crores and crores rupees on your flat, it is a mere 5,000 or 6,000 rupees per year, something like that. That would have given a corpus, or they could have maintained this system fully knowing that there is no occupation certificate. Without occupation certificate, you cannot go in and reside in a building. Now the point comes here, whether everybody should wait for this much long period. The action is required to be taken. This is a classic example what can go wrong if you go by the theory of rules and regulations part of it. I think proactive actions are required to be by various authorities to see that a logical end is there. Court will take its own time.
All right, Swapnil Kothari is a lawyer. Swapnil, the problem here is 4 people are dead, 20 in hospital. Now, proactive action could have saved these people. But right now, we should have answers. And these should be answers for everyone who's watching at this point to understand whether or not their own homes are safe. So, legally, Swapnil, whose responsibility is it?
The first and foremost responsibility is that of the builder who sought to give occupation to the flat owners without having the requisite occupation certificate. The second is that of the BMC who turned the other way. Knowing, I'm sure that in the past 2-3 years, the fact that these people have started residing, or I don't know since how long, the BMC
5 years,
knew
yes.
that there are people who are residing. Yes, 5 years. So there are people who are residing, and there is no occupation certificate given to them. So why did the BMC not take action? In 2016, it probably sent a legal notice, or probably sent a notice to them under 353A, if I remember the section correctly, stating that you need to vacate this. This is not a proper building, and this is not a very safe building. The third responsibility I would pin also upon the flat owners, who knew probably very well that there is no occupation certificate, still sought to buy the flats, as quite a few people do in this city, and then did not go to ensure that all the rules and regulations and the laws, the municipal laws, have been complied with. Fine, they've come in, it's an illegal act, then try to go ahead and tell the BMC that, look, we've started staying here, see what you can do best in the circumstances, and try to ensure the safety norms, be it the fire department, the fire extinguishers at the appropriate places, and any other laws, the rainforest laws, etc. There are several other aspects in this which I don't want to get into, because here it's primarily the issue of fire. Now, that being said, this is where I would pin the responsibility, the first, as I said, on the builder, because I think he needs to be hauled up first. And what are the sections that come into play at the moment?
Yes.
The first is culpable homicide not amounting to murder, because obviously he knew that somewhere, if the fire was going to take place, people could die, people got trapped. And thanks to this woman, this young girl, 10-year-old girl, Zen Sadavarte, who probably, God alone knows, saved how many lives. And then the BMC, of course, which needs to be hauled up, and I've been telling on various channels, right since the time that several fires have taken place, or floods have taken place, and or trees have fallen, that there has to be a BMC Liability Act. I'll come to that later, Faye.
Absolutely. We also have Chandrasekhar Prabhu. Chandrasekhar Prabhu, this particular case, and my worry here is the fact that the building is in front of the BMC. We've not been able to reach the developer. The developer switched off all his phones and nobody's answering phones in that office. But is it the developer's fault, Chandrasekhar Prabhu?
Of course it is the developer's fault. How many more people need to die to tell the politicians that the developers have been taking the citizens of the city for a ride? You know, you sell the flat, you take the last installment saying that abhi ek mahine mein OC aa jayega. You deliberately bring the people and shove them into these houses without getting occupation certificate. You commit major violations in the name of completing the building. You don't get the building completion certificate. You don't get the occupation certificate. You are only interested in giving them the occupation because you want to extract money out of it. This is happening not in one case, but hundreds and hundreds of cases that is happening. And every time we require some deaths to happen to gather together and remind ourselves that the builder is at fault. This is not something very new. I am pained to say this every time that I see deaths, that occupation certificate, without occupation certificate, entry into the building is a criminal offense. Knowing all this, the builder himself takes them and says, pay me my last installment. Remember, this is all a game of money. If it is a 3 crore flat, his last installment is 1 crore and a half, which he can't take without giving the occupation certificate. So he takes that money and he says, in 1 month I will give you the occupation certificate, puts them in the building and puts their life to risk. This has been happening all along. How long are we going to deliberate and discuss this, whether the builder is at fault? Of course he is at fault.
Rohit Gera is a developer who joins us right now. Rohit Gera, far too many builders have gotten away with this. Far too many times people move into homes without their occupancy certificates, and builders get away with this.
Faye, I completely agree that it's clearly unacceptable for a developer to actually permit people to move into the building without having the occupancy certificate. Having said that, I think that unless and until we know the exact nature of the facts that took place here, while I'm not absolving the developer at all, just to say that because many other builders have done this, therefore everybody is, definitely guilty for this, like Mr. Prabhu said. I'm sorry, I disagree with that. I think what we really need to look at is, did the developer actually, as a first step before obtaining the occupancy certificate, he has to get a fire NOC. Okay, so we need to understand and ascertain, did he have the fire NOC?
There is no fire NOC.
Because you can't presume that he's going to know that there's going to be a fire and people are going to die. I don't think anybody is going to allow people to move in with that assumption. Okay, so fundamentally, let's understand, did he obtain a fire NOC or not? It is a statement, it is a fact if you say that he didn't have the occupancy certificate. I agree with the other panelists who said that, look, there's a common culpability, if you will. If this occupancy was given in 2013, it was under the Maharashtra Ownership Flats Act. That specifically says the builder shall not give possession and the purchaser shall not take possession until the occupancy certificate is in hand. Look, we're also talking about people who are, if you're spending 3 crores on buying a home, I think that you're reasonably educated, right? If you can afford to spend 3 crores on a house, why did people move in? They should have turned around and stopped and said, look, we're not going to accept this in a substandard manner without the permissions. So I think there are, a number of different things to look at.
Let me just point out the facts here, if I may. Rohit, forgive me for interrupting you. The firefighting system in the building, according to the fire department today, was not working on several floors. There were several floors. The electric duct in each and every floor had not been sealed, apparently. This is a second lapse as well. You seem to disagree with him, and you visited the building.
I fully disagree with that. There was no NOC given by the fire department for this building. there was no occupation certificate, and people telling that without occupation certificate you should not go to the house, that is technically very well correct. But if you see, when you pay so much of amount, you don't get house for an years together. We are left with no option but to occupy the place, because garaj ko akal nahi rehta hai sahab. Garaj ko akal nahi rehta hai. So you better let me tell these builders association as of today, have they blacklisted any one single builder as of today? They have not blacklisted. They should remove them from the associations. They should find out. They cannot just say that all the builders are not like that. 90% of the building, let BMC tell that our 90% of the building are with occupation certificate. If I go to a street, you will find each and every building which is redeveloped. This is the redeveloped building under 33(7), and the people who are waiting outside, who have been allotted these places under redevelopment, they did not get rent, they did not get corpus fund, the society was not formed, and the property tax by this builder has not been paid to the BMC, and you feel that all builders are not like that. Let all builders pressure him to pay. Let all builders make an association and remove them. You are not doing this matter, and you are getting ifs and buts. There is no ifs and buts. There is that.
I don't agree at all. You cannot make a statement that all builders
we are making a statement that not all. We said that you all builders need to see.
Let me ask this question. Rohit Gera, you are a member of one of the associations of CRIDAI, I understand, with Pune.
Yes.
How many builders have you blacklisted within the association for doing things like this? How many builders within Pune at least have you blacklisted?
Let me answer that. At CRIDAI Pune, for many years now, we have had a grievance redressal forum. We do not get these kind of severe allegations that come to us at the association level. The kind of issues that we get have been handled by our grievance redressal forum.
Do you know DSK developers?
I'm sorry,
do you know Mr. Gera, do you know DSK developers? My friend Vijay Kumbar took out all details. I hope you are still not blacklisted, Mr. DSK. If I am not wrong,
he's in jail.
Grievance redressal crores of rupees have been due by him. That is what the cases are there.
There's the other point.
Let's focus on the subject here, okay?
The focus on the subject is grievance redressal. Did you solve the grievance redressals of the Punekars?
Now, 1 second. Let me also point out for Rohit Gera's benefit that this was a redevelopment home, which means these people had to leave their homes in order for it to be redeveloped. How long would they stand outside their own home saying, I'm going to wait for an occupancy certificate? But Mr. Pratap has a point to make. Pratapji, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would like to make a very important point. Now, basically, what happens with blacklisted builders is a secondary issue part of it. What is happening to those wherein the FIR has been already lodged because of the negligence or not providing proper firefighting, not maintaining the proper firefighting system part of it, or amalgamation of flat and so forth. My question is to the builder lobby is that now when we are aware of all the laws and all the nitty-gritties, why not see that whatever cases pending regarding the infringement especially fire should have a fast court so that the deterrent will come, and then this sort of an attitude or mindsets will change. The point is, we have no logical end of any particular, how many people die, nobody bothers.
Yes.
The court is taking his own time. I think the time has come when there is a casualty purpose, many casualties. I think it should go on a fast court, and then the penalty or the imprisonment, whatever maybe the court feels right, should be done. Otherwise, this will go on. Blame game is always there.
Yes.
Some Tom, Dick, Harry, or some scapegoat will be there, and then this goes on. We the firefighters, irrespective of whatever the situation may be, we have to perform our duties at the risk, our own risk. Today, five firemen have been injured. It is my duty, no doubt. They have done the duty part of it, but at what cost? There are so many casualties happening in my own department. Either they don't have families. We do take risk, but not undue risk. Otherwise, if the equipment are not there, it will become taken point here, we cannot extinguish fires very easily
Mr. Pratap, tell me,
and within short time.
Explain to our audience the challenges here for the firefighters when the basic fire safety equipment in the building is not working, when there's no room. We've had a case in Worli some time ago where the fire tender couldn't enter the building because the ramp was not strong enough, because there was underground parking and they had not made the ramp strong enough for the fire tender to enter that building. The fact that there are so many lapses, how much more difficult does it make the job of the fire department?
See, look, as we are going higher and higher, the task become more critical. If your pumps are not working, we cannot pump water from the ground level to the 100 meters or 200 meters we require. We don't have those pumps. The pumps are to be inbuilt and kept in working condition, and should we work, we should draw water and extinguish fire. In Blue Mount, what happened was, fortunately the pump was working, only access was not there. Point is, if you are going higher and higher, chances that we have to provide a dedicated staircase to go and reach the particular scene of fire as early as possible within 1 minute. Then most of the thing can be controlled. If there is no water, we cannot pump water in few minutes. We have to have one level to other level and then finally to the fire for area. Now take this particular granted, today's life would have definitely saved, and those people who are not traumatized had the particular simple the electrical duct would have sealed at every floor or alternate floor, yes, so that the smoke would have not gone into the staircase or probably to the upper areas, and people would have not come into such a dangerous situation. The girl, I should salute that particular girl, her whatever little knowledge of the fire safety aspect part of it, how to save, has really commendable. I appreciate, and this should be the attitude of every Indian who are staying in a high-rise building.
Well, I want to ask a second question that we must ask at this point. In 2016, the BMC served a notice to this building for unlawful occupancy. They told all of the residents they had to vacate the building in less than a week. Nothing has happened since then. Why do you think the BMC looked the other way?
It's basically a very good connivance between the developer and the BMC officials. There is no doubt about it. Now they are issuing as per the BMC Act. Why don't they issue notices as per the MRTP Act? If they issue notices as per to the MRTP Act, the action can be little faster. The other is that every BMC ward has a designated officer, particularly for illegal construction, demolitions and everything. They don't do the job. Even BMC has a special website for reporting of the illegal construction. Now they are asking their mobile number, Aadhaar number, all this matter also. Whereas Supreme Court has said that Aadhaar number is not required. Whereas the BMC is asking in their website reporting about the illegal constructions, the Aadhaar numbers. The third is that without any people say that occupation certificate the people should not occupy. How many years they will wait? This developer is again developing a building in Madhavdas Pasta Road. I don't think, I hope this again these things will not be followed. I feel that developers associations, Michi, Credai, whatever they are, yes, they need to take action on these builders. They should blacklist them. If they don't do this,
no, but it's not just that. See, it's not just that. They will. My concern here is with the BMC that did not follow up on the notice that it sent. Why wouldn't the BMC follow up? If they said you have to vacate after 1 week, there has to be a follow up. Look at this building where my journalist is now telling me, my reporter is now telling me they had no occupation certificate. No society was formed for 5 years because they didn't have an occupancy certificate. They have not formed a society. They have not followed through on any of the paperwork. They have zero paperwork. This is a tall building standing in the middle of central Mumbai in front of the BMC office. Someone was being bribed. Let's be honest about it. Let's come out about it. Someone was being bribed. Chandrasekhar Prabhu, this building could not have been standing there without somebody in the BMC having taken a bribe. 1 second. Chandrasekhar Prabhu, please.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, it's so crystal clear that there is this nexus Please remember, there was a move in the middle wherein some of us who sat together and found out the various reasons why occupation certificates were not given. And we made 27 different reasons. And we found that some of these reasons are compoundable and can be settled. Some of these reasons are uncompoundable, like there is gross FSI violation, there is danger to the lives of people, that is uncompoundable. But there are small little things, that a flower bed is jutting out 3 inches more than what was shown in the plan. You can find the person, if the builder is not available, find the guy who's occupying the place or ask him to prune the thing by 3 inches and settle it once and for all. But they don't want to settle it. They want to keep it as it is, because this is a cow which lays golden eggs. This is the hen which lays golden eggs. Every now and then a building without an occupation certificate is a continuous flow of revenue and income for those. You know, when we were small, we knew postmen who, poor things, used to come every Diwali asking for some money for delivering post for the rest of the year. Here, every building without an occupation certificate is a continuous source of revenue for all the officials of various departments to go time and again and extract their pound of flesh. And once the builder is gone, it is the hapless residents to whom these people go and say, you have bought this flat for 3 crores. Why can't you give us 20,000 rupees every month or 10,000 rupees every month? Otherwise, we will issue a notice and see that you will be vacated from here. So there are lots of
Mr. Prabhu, you seem you're confusing Diwali Bakshish with Hafta here.
People.
What we're talking,
very few.
This is what the citizens of Mumbai call Hafta, where someone walks up to you, a street side bully, and takes money out of you. But tell me something, Mr. Prabhu, this is the important question. If I happen to, and I want everybody who's watching the show, one second. Everyone who's watching the show tomorrow morning, go down to your society office and ask to see the papers, ask to see the occupancy certificate, ask to see the fire NOC. If you don't have these 2 papers filed in your society office, you have a massive problem. Now, Mr. Prabhu, if I don't have those, if I'm living in a building that doesn't have an occupancy certificate, that doesn't mean we can't apply. The citizens or the residents in that building can get together and apply for the certificate. What is the process there?
Yes. The process is very simple. You appoint the services of an architect, check the original plans which were approved, check what has been built on site, check what are the violations, check whether those violations are of a serious nature or of a non-serious nature. If they are of a non-serious nature and they are compoundable, then apply for condoning them and pay penalties and whatever and get the occupation certificate. Done. However, if there are 5 floors which are illegal or there is major violation from FSI, then it is non-compoundable. They fall into a different category altogether. They need to be dealt with the force of law. So on one hand, there are things which can be settled and which can be compounded, and I'm sure more than 50% of the buildings which don't have occupation certificate are for some kind of minor and flimsy reasons where things can be compounded by paying a few penalties where it doesn't cost harm to the lives of the people for such things. For instance, if a flower bed is jutting out by 3 inches, sure enough you can demolish those 3 inches or you can prune it or you can pay some penalty for it.
It's now a question of 3-4 inches of space vis-a-vis the lives of your family members. And this is really serious. I cannot stress on this enough. You cannot sit around saying that the developer did not give us an occupancy certificate. If you don't have one, you have to get one right now. You have to get someone to audit your building. You have to make sure it's fire safe. You have to apply for that certificate and you can get it now. Thomas is on the phone line from Mumbai. Thomas, go ahead very quickly, please.
Yeah, thank you, madam. I've been listening to your channel. It's a very good channel. Every day, whatever the problems are happening in the town, it is being discussed. Today, it is about the building. The buildings, not only in the buildings, actually no department is having the responsibility. Every people just putting to somebody and they are escaping. This is not the way. We are the society. We should work together. We should be,
Yes.
we are willing to live, not to die. There is a saying in Bombay, marne ke liye ji raha hai. That is what happening every day. What
We
are the
should
things are
take
happening?
most responsibility. We should demand more. Actually, this is unfortunately the middle class that doesn't fight enough. We should demand more. Bhaskar Prabhu, if it is just a question of fixing the fire safety, that's one thing. But a lot of times, like you said, the plans are violated. The plans are wrong. What happens? How often have you found that to be the case?
The thing is that the BMC in the BMC the plans are submitted correctly, but if you go in the site, the plans are totally, it's a different issue matter. I fully agree, Mr. Chandrasekhar Prabhu, to take the plans. But if you see in one of the industrial estate there, my unit is there. We asked for the BMC's approved plan because we are applying for the OC and all these matters. So the BMC replied us, there are no plans with us. Now, in this situation, what we should do, we don't know, nor BMC guides us. Of course, the documents have to be reconstructed by an architect and submitted over there. The problem here is that citizens definitely do not have that much of time, or that is what we have been demanding under RTI. These all matters should be on the BMC's website. They have when myself and Mr. Shailesh Gandhi were in technical advisory committee, which was formed by Mr. Kunte of the previous commissioner, we have all submitted our recommendations to all the previous plans to be on the website. But BMC says that we have scanned all the plans, but you will not find those plans on the website. Then how we will be able to see? The third is, of course, this technical advisory committee was disbanded by the present MC, because there is a transparent committee formed by the state, which was announced by our Chief Minister, but we don't know what is happening over there. The third is that there is no accountability. Even these 3 development buildings are told that they don't come under RERA. Then how the citizens will be accountable to, how the developer will be accountable?
Okay.
I feel that the citizens need to demand, if the documents are not there, or as per to the Record Maintenance Act, there should be a FIR filed by the BMC.
Yes, and if the developer is not willing to give you an occupancy certificate, then you know something is wrong with that building. Rohit Gera, how often do developers hand over buildings without occupancy certificates, and why do they do so?
So, Faye, it has been happening, and there's no doubt about it. The only good news, or the silver lining, if you will, is that with RERA now coming in, I think certainly a lot
redevelopment is not covered.
Redevelopment issues are not taken by the RERA.
Just give me a second.
Okay.
Just give me a second. Redevelopment, it falls under a different category as far as the authorities and as far as the law is concerned, as the law is written today. And I think that the state government is open to modifying the rules, and that ought to be done. I'm not saying it shouldn't be done. The fact of the matter is that people have taken possession, developers have given possession for a large number of reasons. The most common of them is that some gross violation has been done by the developer. Okay. Now, how does the citizen or how does that customer go out and then get that corrected? It's not possible because the building has exceeded the FSI that was available in that location. Fortunately, if you look at some cities, the state government has increased the available FSI for those projects. Today, I think it's possible for a society to go out, get an architect. It'll cost them something, but they can get that building regularized and completely legalized. Where the FSI has gone up, it's an easy fix.
How often?
But it's to be done, and they need to do it. I think people need to take ownership of their homes in a complete manner and actually get it done.
How often does the local government and authorities ask for bribes, Rohit Gera? How often is this about bribery? How often is this about bribery?
Of course, often enough. It is a case about bribes. Okay, there was a time when, look, I'll tell you in my own case, all right. I have been asked for issuing a fire NOC to say, look, give us this much money, just put any kind of doors, it doesn't matter, instead of the fire doors, and we'll just look the other way, right? Now, it's tempting for somebody to go ahead and say, yeah, we'll save a lot of money by just paying somebody off. It's a collective system which is full of rot, okay? And together, I think between apartment owners, the authorities, the policing systems have to come together and get rid of the rot from this system. But the system is rotten.
I just want to tell here is that I agree that the occupiers should take an initiative to get it. You know, if I am not wrong, this building property tax arrears goes into lakhs. Property tax arrears goes into lakhs before the occupying of the building. Then if the same occupants, they have to pay the tax which is not due to them. How they will pay? How a tenants will again collect the amount, because this is a redevelopment building that is under 33(7), where they are first one in a single room they were there. Now they are having 400 and odd square feet. And is it possible? Is it possible? Government should see that they are just put behind the bars, these developers. The government should see the possibilities of regularizing these matters as per to the law. Yes. And whoever, whatever it may be, the government, the CM had announced on the first anniversary of the RERA that redevelopment issues will be added in the. As of today, nothing has happened.
Let me also point out now, just because this developer has switched off his phone and is not answering his phone does not make the problem go away. Ladies and gentlemen of the country, Razak Supariwala of the Supariwala group was responsible for building this building. He is not answering his phone right now, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop trying to trace him down and ask these questions. Also, Vijay Singhal is with the BMC, Kishore Desai, Assistant Commissioner, Vijay Singhal, Additional Commissioner of the BMC, responsible for this building. These are the people who are responsible for the building. It cannot take away from the fact that the people who were living in the building, the residents, should also take certain responsibility. We've run out of time on this discussion, but I want to leave you with this. We all live in high rises today. There's no way that we can turn our face from the fact that we live in very unsafe places. But there are rules. And the rules and regulations are there to make us safer. While I run footage on the screen right now of the horrific thing that happened today in Mumbai, I'm going to tell you what you should be doing to make sure that your home is safe. First of all, you have to go down to your society building, your society office. Make sure that your building has an occupancy certificate. Make sure that it has an NOC from the fire department. If you don't have these two papers filed in that office, you already have a massive problem. Once you have these two papers, you have to make sure that the society that runs the building does an annual audit by a certified fire auditor who will come in once a year and make sure that all of the equipment is working, that everything is working as it should be and it is being serviced. A lot of times societies move in and they don't service any of the equipment, and then it's useless because it's not working. There needs to be an emergency lighting system. Remember, the terrace doors should never be locked. There should be a tank on the terrace with water in it, a dedicated water tanker for the firefighting on the roof. Every 8 floors, you need to have a refuge floor with open access, which means that first floor, 4 floors will run down. The rest of them will run to an empty floor called the refuge floor, from where the fire service can access them. Clear and uncluttered staircases. Staircases are not space to store your tricycles and your bicycles. They are places where people will run in case of a fire. So go back to your building, and if you find a neighbor has kept his bicycle or his tricycle or old furniture at the staircase, have it moved out immediately. There has to be enough room for the fire engine to enter the building. It's only if the tender can enter the building that they'll be able to access the top floors. These are things that you and I can do because we live in these buildings. It's ridiculous for those people who enclose their buildings, their rooms completely. How will the fire service fish you out of your apartment if you've got a grill? You need to have space so you can exit the apartment as well. All of this can be done if you conduct a fire audit once a year. Do it as soon as possible. Do it tomorrow, not at the next AGM meeting of your society. Do it tomorrow morning. Thanks for watching.